You know that feeling, right? That sudden, jarring jolt that shoots through you, electrifying every nerve. The one that starts in your gut, a knot tightening like a fist, then climbs, constricting your chest, until it explodes behind your eyes, blurring everything with a red, indignant haze. It's a primal response, a fight or flight siren blaring in your brain. And it happened to me just a few months ago, clear as day. I'd been having a killer week, genuinely feeling on top of my game, hitting every deadline, anticipating every need. A good week. A really good week. Then, Thursday morning, bam. An email from my boss. Subject line, regarding your latest project deliverables. My stomach dropped faster than a stone in a well. My heart instantly hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat trying to escape my chest. My palms got slick. I clicked it open, a sense of foreboding already creeping in. The first paragraph was fine, corporate pleasantries, standard stuff, but then I scrolled down. And there it was. A single line, sharp, precise, and utterly devastating. It questioned a core strategic decision I'd made, implying not just a minor oversight, but a fundamental lack of foresight, even competence. My vision narrowed. My jaw clenched so hard I honestly thought my teeth would crack. The blood rushed to my head, a hot, throbbing wave of pure, unadulterated indignation. How dare he? After all the late nights, the meticulous planning, the extra effort I'd poured into this project, the countless hours I'd sacrificed. This was a complete mischaracterization, an unfair assessment, a baseless accusation. And in that split, infinitesimal second, that tiny, fragile window between my eyes absorbing those words and my fingers flying across the keyboard, I didn't pause. I didn't breathe. I didn't even register a second option. I just reacted. The reply I typed was a torrent of raw, unchecked emotion. Defensive, sharp, laced with barely concealed anger. Every word was an accusation, every sentence a counterattack. I refuted every single one of his points, not with calm logic or carefully considered facts, but with indignant fire, with the stinging venom of feeling deeply wronged. My fingers smashed the keys, my knuckles white. And then I hit send. My thumbs still trembled, my pulse thrummed in my ears. For about 10 glorious, adrenaline-fueled seconds, I felt a surge of vindication. Take that, my inner voice crowed, feeling like I just won some invisible battle. Then, the cold, hard slap of reality. The immediate dread. The nauseating pit in my stomach that felt like I'd swallowed a lead ball, chilling me from the inside out. My shoulders slumped. Oh no, I whispered to the empty office, my voice barely a croak. What have I done? The email was gone, irrevocably launched into the digital ether, completely irredeemable. My meticulously crafted image of competence, my calm professionalism, my reputation, all of it, felt like it had been shattered into a million pieces by 2 short, furious paragraphs I'd typed in a fit of pique. That single, impulsive email didn't just ruin my Thursday, it cast a dark, suffocating shadow over my entire week. I spent the next few days replaying the scenario in excruciating detail, agonizing over every poorly chosen word, imagining the irreparable damage I'd done to my relationship with my boss, to my standing in the team. The shame, the crushing regret, the desperate, aching longing to just reach back in time, grab that version of myself from those frantic 2 seconds, and make him stop. Make him breathe. Make him think. Make him choose differently. How many times have you been there? In a brutal traffic jam already late, when someone suddenly cuts you off without a signal, forcing you to slam on your brakes. And in that split second, you lean on the horn, scream an expletive, maybe even flash a rude gesture, something you instantly regret. Or, perhaps a partner says something completely innocuous. But your stress levels are already sky high, and you snap back with a venom you didn't even know you possessed. You see the hurt, the confusion, the disappointment flash across their face, and the immediate thought hits you like a physical blow. Oh, God, I wish I had handled that differently. I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I hadn't reacted like that. It always comes back to those 2 seconds, doesn't it? That incredibly fragile, fleeting moment, that microscopic gap between the trigger, the critical email, the aggressive driver, the innocent remark, and your impulsive, often destructive, reaction. What if you could take those 2 seconds back? What if you could stretch them out just enough to create a tiny space, a crucial pause, where you could actually choose a different path? What if, in that minuscule, powerful window, you could actually stay calm, access your wisdom, and respond with intention, instead of just reacting on raw, damaging instinct. That, my friends, is the profound question that can utterly change everything. I've been thinking a lot lately, reflecting on a profound shift I've experienced over the past few years, a transformation from feeling like a leaf caught in an emotional hurricane to genuinely feeling like the captain of my own inner ship. For far too long, my life felt dictated by external forces and the unpredictable surges of my own reactions. One moment, a slight inconvenience would send me spiraling into frustration. The next, an unexpected compliment would lift me to euphoric, sometimes unrealistic, highs. It was exhausting, this constant oscillation, this relentless push and pull that left me drained and, often, regretful. And honestly, it wasn't just tiring, it was genuinely costing me, both personally and professionally, a lot. What I desperately craved, what I subconsciously knew was missing, was something I eventually came to understand and actively cultivate: emotional discipline. Now, please, before you mentally check out, picturing some cold, stoic, unfeeling automaton, let me immediately dispel that myth. Because that's the biggest misconception about this concept, and it's certainly not what I mean when I talk about mastering your emotions. Emotional discipline is emphatically not about shutting down your feelings, or pretending they don't exist, or stuffing them away until they inevitably explode. It's not about becoming some kind of unfeeling robot who never gets angry, sad, overwhelmed, or even ecstatically joyful. In fact, quite the opposite. It's about being truly present with those emotions, allowing yourself to feel them fully, understanding their transient nature, and then, crucially, consciously choosing your response. It's about creating that vital space between stimulus and reaction, a space where true freedom and power reside. It's about becoming the master of your internal world, rather than letting your emotions impulsively dictate your actions and reactions. It's about genuine inner freedom, not restrictive suppression. And here's the most empowering, most hopeful part of all: this isn't some rare, inborn talent reserved for the enlightened few. It is a profoundly learnable skill. Think of it like learning to play a complex musical instrument, or mastering a new language, or even honing your craft in video editing. It takes conscious effort, consistent practice, and a willingness to learn, but absolutely anyone can cultivate it. I vividly remember a particular incident, probably 6 or 7 years ago, that truly hammered this lesson home for me. I was in the final stages of pitching what felt like a monumental creative project, a partnership that had the potential to dramatically elevate my career and open so many doors. The stakes, in my mind, felt astronomically high. We were deep into the negotiation phase, and one specific clause presented by the other party felt, to me, like a blatant disregard for my value, almost a personal affront. My rational mind, the part of me that had read all the books on negotiation tactics, knew intellectually that it was likely a strategic move, a push for leverage. My gut, however, felt a surge of pure, unadulterated indignation. It was a hot, prickly feeling that rapidly ascended into my chest and throat. Instead of taking a deliberate breath, excusing myself for a moment, or even just acknowledging my rapidly rising anger internally, and then choosing to respond strategically, I completely bypassed all reason. I let it rip. I became instantly defensive, my voice escalated, and I launched into an impassioned, albeit entirely unproductive, lecture about fairness, respect, and creative integrity. I watched, almost in slow motion, as the other party's expression hardened. The meeting ended abruptly, with a polite but firm declaration that they needed to rethink things. And just like that, the project, along with what could have been an invaluable long-term partnership, evaporated. Gone. All because I couldn't rein in that immediate, visceral surge of anger, that knee-jerk defensiveness. I allowed my emotions to completely hijack my judgment, to seize the controls and steer the entire ship directly onto the rocks. The immediate cost wasn't just the loss of that incredible project. It was the damage to my professional reputation, the betrayal of my own strategic goals, and frankly, a huge, crushing blow to my self-esteem. The feeling of "I knew better, why couldn't I stop myself?" haunted me for weeks. That moment, among several others that painfully accumulated over time, served as a profound, undeniable wake-up call for me. It sparked an intense, deep dive into understanding how some people seem to navigate these intense emotional storms with such incredible grace and composure, while others, very much like my past self, repeatedly crash and burn. My personal journey, from being perpetually reactive and easily swayed by every emotional impulse, to slowly, steadily becoming more responsive, more intentional, and more resilient, has been one of the most challenging but ultimately most transformative experiences of my entire life. And that, my friends, is precisely what this video series is all about. Over these next few episodes, I'm going to pull back the curtain and share with you the fundamental principles, the practical strategies, and the mindset shifts that have profoundly helped me on this incredibly rewarding journey. We're going to meticulously break down what I've learned about cultivating true emotional discipline, distilling powerful concepts, many of them inspired by incredible thinkers, philosophers, and a few truly brilliant books I've encountered along the way, into a practical, relatable, and deeply humanized guide. This isn't going to be about abstract theories or complex psychological jargon. This is about real-world application, about making these powerful ideas accessible to everyone. I promise you, by the end of these videos, you will walk away with actionable tools, concrete strategies, simple mental frameworks, and practical exercises you can literally start applying today, right after watching, to begin building your own emotional resilience, fostering inner calm, and reclaiming intentional control over your internal landscape. This is about transforming those dizzying, unpredictable emotional roller coasters into smooth, intentional, and empowering journeys of self-mastery. And trust me, from personal experience, it's a journey that is unequivocally worth taking. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you just snapped? Maybe it was a petty argument that escalated into a full-blown shouting match, or a small critique at work that sent you into a spiral of defensiveness, or even just spilling your coffee and feeling an irrational rage boil up inside you. In that moment, it feels like all logic, all reason, all that hard-earned maturity just vanishes. You might even hear yourself saying or doing things you instantly regret, thinking, "Why did I just do that?" Well, I'm here to tell you something truly liberating. It's not just you. And it's not a personal failing. What you're experiencing is a perfectly normal, albeit often inconvenient, biological process playing out in your brain. To understand this, let's meet two key players in your mind, two characters I like to think of as the guard dog and the wise owl. First, we have our guard dog. This is your amygdala. It's ancient, primal, and its sole job is vigilance. It's constantly scanning your environment 24/7 for any signs of danger. And I mean any sign. A raised voice, a critical email, a sudden loud noise, a looming deadline, even just a look that you misinterpret to the guard dog, these can all register as potential threats. It's incredibly fast, always acts first, and asks questions later. Its motto is better safe than sorry. When it perceives a threat, it doesn't pause to weigh options, it just barks, loudly, and it unleashes a cascade of hormones to prepare you for immediate action: fight, flight, or freeze. Then, there's the wise owl. This is your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain right behind your forehead. This is the newer, more sophisticated part of your brain. The wise owl is calm, logical, rational, empathetic, and excellent at problem-solving, planning, and understanding long-term consequences. It's the part that says, "Hold on, let's think this through," or perhaps there's another way to look at this. It needs quiet, space, and a bit of time to do its best work. Normally, the wise owl is supposed to gently guide the guard dog, offering perspective and assurance that most situations aren't actually life-threatening. But here's where things get interesting, and often messy. When the guard dog gets overwhelmed, when that perceived threat is too strong, too sudden, or too familiar from past experiences, it sometimes completely bypasses the wise owl. This is what we call an amygdala hijack. Think of it like this: the guard dog senses a perceived intruder and, instead of consulting the wise owl about the best course of action, it seizes control of the entire house, locking the wise owl in its study and throwing the keys away. In that moment, Your body floods with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart races, your breath becomes shallow, your muscles tense up, ready to run or fight. Your vision might narrow, your hearing might focus only on the perceived threat. Blood is literally diverted away from your prefrontal cortex, your wise owl, and redirected to your large muscle groups, preparing you for physical survival. In essence, your rational brain, your wise owl, is temporarily taken offline. It's starved of the resources it needs to function. You're no longer thinking clearly, you're reacting from a primal, survival-driven place. This is why, in the heat of an emotional flood, telling someone or even yourself to just calm down is practically useless. It's like telling a computer that just lost power to just turn back on. The system capable of calming down, the wise owl, isn't currently operational. The guard dog has full control, and it's not interested in nuanced negotiation. It's convinced it's fighting for its life. Understanding this isn't about making excuses for our reactions, but about gaining profound insight. This isn't a moral failing, or a sign you're fundamentally flawed. It's a testament to millions of years of evolution, a built-in survival mechanism that served our ancestors incredibly well when faced with actual predators. The challenge for us in the modern world is that our guard dog often gets triggered by non-life-threatening events: a harsh email, a critical comment, financial stress. The good news, the truly empowering part, is that while this is a normal biological process, it's not an unchangeable fate. We can learn to train our guard dog, to teach it that not every bark needs to lead to a full-blown takeover. We can learn strategies to bring our wise owl back online more quickly, to restore that balance and reclaim our capacity for calm, logical, and compassionate responses. That's what this journey is all about, and we're just getting started. Ever been blindsided? Felt a surge of something: anger, anxiety, frustration just erupt from nowhere, leaving you reeling and wondering what the heck just happened? Like you were perfectly fine one moment, and then bam, you're in a full-blown emotional storm. It's a common experience, and honestly, for a long time, it felt like my emotions were these unpredictable, chaotic forces, just waiting to ambush me. But what if I told you that those ambushes aren't random? What if we could actually map the terrain, identify the hidden tripwires, and learn to navigate our own internal landscape with far greater awareness? That's exactly what we're going to do in this chapter. We're not passive victims here. We're going to become the Sherlock Holmes of our own inner world, the intrepid explorers mapping our unique emotional minefield. And our most powerful tool in this investigation, what I like to call your emotional trigger log. Now, before you groan and imagine some complex, time-consuming journal, let's reframe this. This isn't about therapy, it's about pure, unadulterated data collection. Think of it as your personal weather report for emotional storms. When did you feel that surge? What was happening just before? Who was involved? What were you thinking? The goal is simple: capture the facts, without judgment, as close to the event as possible. A quick note in your phone, a small notebook, whatever works for you. As you start logging, you'll begin to notice patterns, and these patterns usually fall into some common categories. Then there are situations. Is it the Monday morning meeting, a looming deadline, getting stuck in traffic, a cluttered environment, the pressure of public speaking? Even something as seemingly benign as social gatherings can be a huge trigger for some. Where are you when these feelings arise? Next, and this is a big one, are internal thoughts. It's not just external events. Sometimes the trigger is purely internal. A critical voice in your head, replaying a past mistake, future tripping about worst-case scenarios, or even just a general sense of unease that spirals. What story are you telling yourself right before the emotion hits? And then there's the incredibly powerful, often underestimated category: your physical state. Have you ever noticed how much shorter your fuse is when you're exhausted? Or when your blood sugar drops and you're suddenly hangry? Dehydration, lack of sleep, even minor physical discomfort can drastically lower your emotional resilience. My personal kryptonite? A combination of low blood sugar and bad traffic. Suddenly, I'm not my best self, and everyone is an annoyance. Recognizing this isn't an excuse, it's vital self-awareness that allows you to preemptively address these vulnerabilities. Now, as you're becoming this emotional detective, I want you to train yourself to become incredibly attuned to your body. Our emotions don't just appear out of thin air, they send out subtle advance scouts. Before the tidal wave hits, there are ripples. What does it feel like for you? For some, it's a sudden clenching in the jaw or shoulders. For others, it's a tightening in the gut, a rapid pulse, or a sudden flush of heat in the face. Maybe your breathing becomes shallow, or you feel an inexplicable tremor. These are not just random sensations, they are your body's early warning system. They're saying, hey, something's brewing. Pay attention. Learning to recognize these subtle physical cues is like getting an early weather alert for your emotional climate. And this is the absolute linchpin of this entire process: observation without judgment. This isn't about blaming yourself for having emotions, or for getting triggered. It's about becoming a curious scientist, an anthropologist studying your own inner landscape. When you notice that tightening in your chest, or that urge to snap, just observe it. Don't immediately try to fix it, suppress it, or judge yourself for it. Simply say to yourself, there it is, that familiar feeling. Interesting. This detachment, this pure observation, creates a tiny but powerful space between the trigger and your usual reactive response. And in that space, my friends, lies your freedom. That's where choice begins. Every time you make an entry in your emotional trigger log, every time you non-judgmentally observe a physical sensation, you're not just logging data. You're illuminating your personal emotional minefield. You're transforming blind spots into maps, confusion into clarity. And with that map, you gain the power to navigate, to disarm, and eventually, to walk through any situation with far greater calm and control. It all starts with becoming a detective of your own brilliant, complex self. Think about it: how many times have you spoken or acted in the heat of the moment, only to instantly regret it? That feeling of, if only I'd just waited 5 seconds. That crucial space, my friends, is exactly what we're talking about. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about consciously creating a deliberate space between an emotional trigger and your automatic, often regrettable reaction. This space is your sacred pause. One of the most profound truths I've ever encountered, a cornerstone of emotional discipline, comes from Viktor Frankl. He wisely observed, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Just sit with that for a moment. Between stimulus and response there is a space. That space? That's your sacred pause. That's your moment of ultimate leverage, your gateway to true freedom. Here's precisely why it's a superpower. When an emotional trigger hits us, a frustrating email, a harsh word, a sudden stressful situation, our primitive brain, specifically the amygdala, often called the fight or flight center, lights up like a warning signal. It pushes for immediate, instinctive reaction, flooding our system with stress hormones. It's designed for speed, for survival, but rarely for wisdom or nuance in our complex modern lives. But guess what? Just a tiny, deliberate moment of pause allows another, much more sophisticated part of your brain to come online. I like to call it the wise owl, your prefrontal cortex. This is the seat of logic, reason, empathy, long-term planning, and thoughtful decision-making. The wise owl needs just a breath, just a beat, to step forward, climb down from its perch, and offer a considered, aligned perspective. The pause doesn't eliminate the emotion, it simply creates the essential window for the wise owl to speak, for your higher self to engage. So how do we actively create this space, this sacred pause, when everything inside us is screaming to react immediately? It's far simpler and more accessible than you might imagine. It's about consciously interrupting that automatic emotional circuit with a small, deliberate physical or mental action. First, my absolute go-to technique, universally applicable, the 3-second deep breath. This isn't about embarking on a lengthy meditation, it's about a direct physiological interruption. When your body is in fight or flight, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. Consciously taking a deep breath reverses this. Inhale deeply through your nose for 3 slow counts, feel your belly expand, hold it gently for 1 count, and then exhale slowly through your mouth for 3 counts. Just one such focused breath can send a powerful, calming signal to your nervous system: I am safe. I have control. It's an instant mini reset, shifting you from reactive panic to thoughtful perspective. Try it with me now. demonstrates. Feel that subtle, powerful shift. Second, a wonderfully understated technique: take a sip of water, or coffee, or tea. If you have any drink nearby, simply reaching for it and taking a slow, deliberate sip serves as a subtle, yet remarkably effective, interruption. The physical act, the momentary distraction, the focus required to drink, all conspire to break that immediate reactive loop. It pulls your attention away from the emotional surge just enough, even for a split second, allowing that wise owl to stir and begin processing more calmly. Third, and often profoundly effective, when the situation allows, physically step away. If a conversation is escalating rapidly, if an email has you literally fuming at your screen, if a confrontation is building, give yourself permission to step back. It could be as simple as saying, "I need a moment," or "I'm going to grab some water," or "Let me just think about this for a minute." Then, physically move. Even just taking a few steps away from the immediate trigger, changing your physical orientation, or turning your back for a second, can profoundly alter your internal state. It signals to your brain that the immediate threat isn't quite so immediate, buying you invaluable seconds for rational thought and a clearer response. Now, let's be absolutely clear about what this sacred pause isn't. This isn't about hesitation. This isn't about being slow, indecisive, or weak. On the contrary, this sacred pause is one of the most deliberate, courageous, and powerful acts of taking control you can cultivate. It's about moving from being a mere passenger on the often wild roller coaster of your emotions to becoming the skilled conductor, choosing the speed and direction. It's about consciously choosing intention over raw, unthinking instinct. It's about responding thoughtfully, not just reacting automatically. Imagine the immense freedom this brings into every aspect of your life. The countless times you avoid saying that hurtful thing you can never unsay, or sending that ill-advised email that complicates everything, or making that impulsive decision that leads to profound regret. This sacred pause isn't just about preventing mistakes. It's about creating profound opportunities for growth, for deeper understanding, for communicating with clarity, and for consistently responding in alignment with your truest, highest self. It is, without a doubt, your ultimate superpower in cultivating true emotional discipline and living a life of conscious choice. Start practicing it today. Your future self will profoundly thank you. For too long, many of us have been letting our minds run on autopilot, playing out old, unhelpful scripts. These automatic negative thoughts are like little sparks that ignite our most intense emotions. But the good news is, we can learn to spot these sparks and even extinguish them. This isn't about ignoring reality or forcing toxic positivity. It's about developing a kind of mental discipline, a psychological kung fu, if you will, to manage what goes on between your ears. Now, many of these unhelpful thought patterns fall into common categories that I've come to recognize, what some brilliant minds call cognitive distortions. They're like mental shortcuts that our brains take, but sometimes they lead us down the wrong path. Let me give you a couple of common ones that I see all the time, both in myself and in the people I talk to. First up, there's catastrophizing. This is when we take a minor problem and instantly blow it up into the worst possible disaster. Your boss is quiet in a meeting. "Oh my God, I'm getting fired. This is the end of my career. I'll never find another job. I'll be destitute." You send an email with a typo. "They're going to think I'm incompetent. I'll be laughed out of the office. My professional reputation is ruined." It's like our brain has a direct line to the apocalypse button for every small inconvenience. Then there's mind reading. This one is a sneaky culprit. It's when we assume we know what others are thinking, and almost always, we assume it's something negative about us. Someone doesn't reply to your text immediately. "They're mad at me. They hate me. I must have said something wrong." A friend declines an invitation. "They think I'm boring. They don't want to spend time with me." We project our own insecurities onto others, convinced we can somehow divine their secret thoughts, and then we react to those imagined thoughts as if they're absolute fact. It's exhausting, isn't it? These are just two examples, but there are many more: all or nothing thinking, emotional reasoning, overgeneralization, all of them fueling our stress and anxiety. So, how do we tackle these mental landmines? I've found a simple yet incredibly powerful 3-step method: rooted in cognitive behavioral principles that I rely on constantly. It's called Catch It, Challenge It, Change It. Step 1: Catch it. This is about cultivating awareness. When you feel that surge of intense emotion, that sudden anxiety, that rush of anger, that wave of despair, pause. Just for a second. And ask yourself, what thought just went through my mind? It might be a fleeting image, a sentence, a single word. The key is to become an observer of your own internal monologue, rather than just being swept away by it. Often, these thoughts are so automatic, we don't even consciously register them. But if you practice, you'll start catching them in the act. Aha, there it is. The "I'm not good enough" thought again. Or, "Okay, that's my everyone hates me" thought kicking in. Step 2: Challenge it. This is where you put on your detective hat. Once you've caught the thought, don't just accept it as truth. Cross-examine it. Ask yourself some tough questions. Is this thought 100% true? Always. Without exception. What's the evidence for this thought? And equally important, what's the evidence against it? Am I looking at all the facts, or just the ones that confirm my negative assumption? Is there another way to interpret this situation? What would someone else, a neutral observer, say about this? Is this thought actually helpful to me right now? Does it move me towards my goals, or just keep me stuck in distress? This step isn't about arguing with yourself until you win. It's about seeking a more balanced, realistic perspective. It's about shining a light on the flaws in your internal logic. Step 3: Change it. Once you've challenged the unhelpful thought and seen its cracks, it's time to consciously replace it with a more balanced, realistic, and constructive one. This isn't about lying to yourself or forcing yourself to be happy. It's about replacing an unhelpful lie with a more accurate truth. It's about shifting from a distorted lens to a clearer one. Let me give you a powerful example. Something many of us face: the overwhelming feeling when you look at your to-do list or a big project, and the thought that immediately pops up is, "I'm overwhelmed. I can't handle this. It's too much." Let's apply our 3-step method. 1. Catch it. You feel that tightening in your chest, that sense of panic. The thought surfaces, "I can't handle this. It's too much too." Challenge it. Is it truly 100% impossible for me to handle any part of this? Or is it that some parts feel overwhelming? Probably the latter. What evidence do I have that I can't handle it? Have I faced challenging situations before and come through them? Yes, almost certainly. What's one small piece of this that I could handle? What's the very next step? If a friend told me they felt this way, what advice would I give them? Probably not give up and collapse. Is this thought, "I can't handle this," actually helping me solve the problem, or just increasing my stress? Increasing stress. 3. Change it. Instead of "I can't handle this, it's too much," you might reframe it to something like, "This is a challenging situation, and I feel overwhelmed right now. But I can break it down into smaller, manageable steps. I may not know exactly how to handle everything yet, but I can figure out the next best action. I've handled tough situations before, and I have the capacity to navigate this as well, even if it feels difficult right now. I will focus on one task at a time, and that is enough for now." You see how that shifts the energy? It moves you from a place of helpless despair to one of potential action and resilience. It doesn't magically make the challenge disappear, but it changes your internal relationship with it. It empowers you. This practice, this mental muscle, takes time and repetition to build. But with consistent effort, you'll find yourself not just reacting to your emotions, but consciously shaping the thoughts that create them. You become the editor of your own inner narrative, and that, my friends, is a superpower. It's how we truly stay calm, not by denying reality, but by mastering our minds within it. See, a lot of the time, we try to think our way out of feeling bad. We try to logic with our anxiety, reason with our fear, and sometimes that works. But often, when our body is already in full-blown fight or flight mode, our prefrontal cortex, the rational part of our brain, is pretty much offline. It's like trying to have a nuanced debate with someone who's convinced the house is on fire. You need to put out the fire first. The fastest way to put out that physiological fire? Through your body. Your body constantly sends signals to your brain, which interprets them. Shallow, rapid breathing tells your brain danger, panic. Slow, deep breathing signals we're safe. It's a direct communication pathway. Your vagus nerve is listening. So, let's explore simple, powerful body-based techniques you can use right now, anywhere, to rapidly shift your physiological state and calm your mind. Think of these as your emergency brake, your instant reset button. First up, a technique you might know but perhaps haven't truly appreciated: box breathing. Its genius is its simplicity. Create a square with your breath. The idea is to inhale for a count of 4, hold that breath for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and then hold that empty state for a count of 4. Then you repeat. Let's try it together right now, just for a couple of rounds. If you can, close your eyes, or just soften your gaze. Inhale 2 3 4, hold 2 3 4, exhale 2 3 4, hold 2 3 4, inhale 2 3 4, hold 2 3 4, exhale 2 3 4, hold 2 3 4, just a few cycles of that, and you might already feel a subtle shift. You're deliberately regulating your autonomic nervous system, sending a clear signal of safety to your brain, lowering your heart rate, and calming that adrenaline rush. It's like hitting a gentle pause button on your stress response. Now for an even faster 2-second reset, the physiological sigh. You've seen babies and animals do it when settling down. It's an innate mechanism to offload excess carbon dioxide and reset your nervous system. Here's how it works. You take a deep inhale through your nose, and before you fully exhale, you take a second short, sharp inhale, almost like a little top-up breath. Then, you let out a long, slow, audible sigh through your mouth. Imagine me doing the double inhale, then a long sigh here. That double inhale is key. It re-inflates collapsed air sacs, allowing efficient oxygen-CO2 exchange. Offloading CO2 immediately tells your brain, we're okay. You'll feel your shoulders drop. It's almost magical in its speed. Try it next time you feel a surge of frustration or anxiety. One physiological sigh, and you'll notice a difference. Finally, let's talk about grounding techniques. These are brilliant when your mind spirals, when you feel disconnected, or anxiety overwhelms you. The 5-4-3-2-1 method brings your awareness back to the present, anchoring you in your surroundings, rather than letting your mind drag you into hypothetical futures or past regrets. When you feel yourself spiraling, stop, take a breath, and consciously look around you. Name 5 things you can see right now. Don't just list them, really see them. Notice their colors, their textures, their details. Then, acknowledge 4 things you can feel. This could be the fabric of your clothes against your skin, the floor beneath your feet, the temperature of the air, the weight of your watch. Next, identify 3 things you can hear. The hum of the computer, distant traffic, your own breathing, birds outside. Focus on 2 things you can smell. Maybe your coffee, your laundry detergent, the scent of fresh air, or even just the subtle smell of the room. And finally, name 1 thing you can taste. It could be the lingering taste of your last meal, a sip of water, or if nothing specific comes to mind, just acknowledge a positive affirmation about yourself, like I am safe or I am resilient. The power of these techniques lies in their simplicity and direct physiological impact. When your body sends distress signals, your mind follows. But when you actively intervene and send signals of calm, safety and presence through your breath and senses, your mind has to follow suit. The principle is clear: calm the body first, and the mind will inevitably quiet down. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about regulating your internal environment to process them from strength, not panic. These aren't just parlor tricks. They're fundamental tools for self-regulation, always available, embedded in your own body. Practice them, integrate them, and watch your capacity to stay calm, even in the stormiest situations, grow exponentially. You're not a passive victim of your nervous system, you are its skilled operator. And that, my friends, is true emotional discipline. But what if we could move beyond just reacting? What if we could build something so robust within ourselves that those triggers lose some of their power even before they land? Today, we're stepping into Chapter 6, Building Emotional Fortitude. This isn't about magic, it's about shifting from a purely reactive stance to a powerfully proactive strategy. It's about laying down the foundational bricks of resilience during the quiet times, so when the storms inevitably come, you're not just surviving, you're weathering them from a place of genuine strength. Let's be brutally honest for a moment. How many of us ignore the absolute, non-negotiable bedrock of our emotional stability? I'm talking about sleep, nutrition, and physical movement. We often treat these as luxuries, as things we'll get to when we have time, or when we feel better. But here's the stark truth: they are the scaffolding upon which all emotional calm rests. Think about it. Have you ever had a truly terrible night's sleep, then tried to navigate a stressful meeting or an unexpected personal crisis? Your fuse is shorter, your patience is thinner, your perspective is warped. Sleep isn't just about resting your body. It's about repairing your brain, consolidating emotional memories, and resetting your stress response system. Without adequate quality sleep, you are essentially trying to run a marathon on flat tires. Then there's nutrition. You wouldn't put diesel in a petrol engine, would you? Yet, we often fuel our incredibly complex brains with processed sugars, refined carbs, and a cocktail of artificial ingredients, then wonder why our moods are erratic, our energy crashes, and our anxiety flares. What you put into your body directly impacts your gut, and that gut-brain connection is far more powerful than we often realize. A balanced diet, rich in whole foods, stabilizes blood sugar, provides essential nutrients for neurotransmitter production, and reduces inflammation, all critical components of a stable emotional landscape. And physical movement. Oh, the sheer power of it. It's not just about aesthetics or physical health, it's a profound emotional regulator. Even a brisk 20-minute walk can be a powerful antidote to stress. It releases endorphins, those natural mood boosters. It helps you process pent-up energy, literally moving stagnant emotions through your system. It gives you a sense of accomplishment and control. Ignoring these three pillars, sleep, nutrition, and movement, is like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of quicksand. They are not optional, they are the primary architects of your daily emotional state. Now, once those foundational elements are in place, we move to the daily practices that solidify your emotional resilience. I'm talking about something as simple, yet profoundly effective, as a 5-minute daily mindfulness practice or a quick journaling session. Just 5 minutes. That's it. In a world that constantly demands our attention outwards, these practices are about turning inwards, even if just for a blink. For mindfulness, it's not about achieving a blank mind, it's about observing, noticing the breath, feeling your feet on the floor, allowing thoughts and feelings to come and go without judgment. That small, daily act of observation creates a crucial space between a trigger and your reaction. It's like creating a tiny internal pause button. And journaling? What a gift. It's not about writing a novel, it's about a quick brain dump. A few sentences about what you're feeling, what's on your mind, what bothered you today, or what you're grateful for. This simple act externalizes your emotions, moving them from the swirling chaos of your mind onto a page. It helps you process, identify patterns, and often, just the act of writing it down dissipates some of its power. These are not reactive measures, they are proactive cleanses, emotional maintenance that prevents small emotional ripples from becoming overwhelming waves. But what about those moments when even your best proactive efforts feel overwhelmed? This is where your emotional emergency kit comes into play. Think of it like a personal first aid kit for your feelings. You don't build it when you're bleeding, you build it beforehand. What's in mine? Well, for starters, a specific calming playlist. These aren't just any songs. These are tracks I've curated over time that reliably shift my mood, ground me, or just plain make me feel better. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, pressing play is an instant, pre-programmed shift. Another crucial item: a specific person to call. Someone who you trust implicitly, who listens without judgment, who offers empathy rather than immediate solutions unless asked. It might be a friend, a family member, a mentor. The key is to identify this person before you need them, so in a moment of crisis, you don't have to scramble or wonder who to reach out to. It's a premeditated act of self-care. Your kit might also include a go-to comforting activity, a specific book, a walk in a particular park, a specific tea ritual, a list of empowering affirmations. The point is to have these resources ready, so when your rational brain is offline due to overwhelm, you have a clear, predetermined path to self-soothe. And this brings me to the core, Perhaps most profound insight of all, emotional resilience isn't something you deploy only in the stormy times. It's built during the calm times. You don't suddenly become strong when the weight drops. You become strong by consistently lifting small weights every single day. The quality sleep you prioritize tonight, the nutritious meal you choose tomorrow, the 5 minutes of mindfulness you commit to, the notes you jot in your journal, the calming playlist you curate, these are all daily reps. These are the consistent, often unsung, efforts that fortify your inner world. We tend to wait until we're in crisis to try and implement coping mechanisms. But true emotional fortitude, the kind that allows you to stay calm in any situation, is an ongoing investment. It's an act of deep self-respect, a commitment to your future self, ensuring that when life throws its inevitable curveballs, you don't just dodge them, you catch them with a strong, steady hand. So, start building your emotional fortress today, brick by daily brick. It's the most empowering work you'll ever do. One of the fastest ways to derail a productive conversation is to launch into you statements. "You always do this. You never listen. You make me feel frustrated." When we use you statements, even if our intention is to express hurt, the other person often hears blame, accusation, and judgment. It pushes them into a corner, and from that corner, their instinct is to fight back or shut down. The conversation, at that point, is often over. Instead, I advocate for a pivot to I statements. This isn't about being passive. It's about taking ownership of your experience. Instead of "you never listen to me," try "I feel unheard when our conversation shifts away from my concerns." Or, instead of "you made me angry," consider "I felt a surge of anger when that comment was made." Notice the subtle but profound shift. You're expressing your feelings, your perceptions, and your needs, without pointing a finger. You're not saying their actions are inherently wrong. You're explaining the impact of their actions on you. This opens a door for empathy and understanding, rather than slamming it shut with blame. It's not about being right, it's about being understood. Now, let's talk about listening. Most of us, myself included for a long time, are guilty of listening to rebut. We're not actually taking in what the other person is saying. We're just waiting for a pause, an opening, so we can launch our counter-argument. Our minds are already formulating our next point, digging for evidence, sharpening our rhetorical sword. It's exhausting and unproductive. But true, emotionally disciplined listening is listening to understand. It means quieting that internal voice, consciously putting aside your agenda for a moment, and genuinely trying to step into the other person's shoes. It's an act of deep empathy. Ask clarifying questions, "Help me understand what you mean by that," or "So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're feeling X because of Y." Don't interrupt to correct, interrupt only to clarify you've truly grasped their perspective. When people feel truly heard, even if you don't agree, the entire dynamic shifts. Tension often deflates, because much of the heat in arguments comes from a desperate need to be acknowledged. This act of deep listening is a powerful de-escalation tool. Sometimes, despite our best intentions, a conversation can just spiral. The emotional temperature in the room gets too high, and you can feel your logical brain starting to disengage. When that happens, pushing through is almost always a mistake. It leads to words you regret, deeper hurt, and unresolved issues. This is where the power of a strategic timeout comes in. It's not about walking away or abandoning the conversation, it's about pausing to regroup and regulate. And here's a simple script I found incredibly effective. "I can see this conversation is getting really intense for both of us, and I'm feeling myself get overwhelmed. I care about resolving this constructively, but I need a moment to collect my thoughts and calm down so we can discuss this productively. Can we take a 20-minute break and revisit this?" The key elements are: 1. Acknowledge the situation, getting really intense for both of us. 2. State your personal need: "I'm feeling myself get overwhelmed. I need a moment." Again, I statements. 3. Reaffirm commitment to resolution: "I care about resolving this constructively." 4. Propose a concrete plan: 20-minute break, revisit at X time. This isn't just an escape hatch, it's a responsible, emotionally disciplined move that preserves the relationship and increases the chances of a constructive outcome. Finally, let's talk about something deeply intertwined with emotional self-preservation: setting clear boundaries. This isn't about building walls. It's about defining your personal space, articulating your emotional limits, and communicating what you will and will not tolerate. Think of it as creating a respectful operating manual for how others can interact with you. Many of us struggle with boundaries because we fear confrontation or worry about upsetting others. But often, the lack of clear boundaries leads to resentment, exhaustion, and ultimately, a breakdown in the very relationships we're trying to protect. Setting a boundary is an act of emotional self-care. It might sound like, "I understand you're upset, but I'm not able to continue this conversation if there's yelling. I'm happy to revisit it when we can both speak calmly." Or, "I can't take on that extra project right now, as my plate is already full. I need to prioritize my current commitments." The beauty of boundaries, when communicated clearly and calmly, is that they strengthen relationships. They teach people how to treat you, and they preserve your emotional energy. It's about respecting yourself enough to ensure your well-being, which then allows you to show up more fully and authentically in all your interactions. Navigating difficult conversations is never easy. It takes courage, practice, and a willingness to look inward. But by consciously choosing I statements over blame, by genuinely listening to understand, by knowing when and how to call a timeout, and by firmly but kindly setting your boundaries, you're not just surviving these moments, you're transforming them. You're building stronger relationships, asserting your needs, and cultivating a deeper, more resilient emotional discipline within yourself. These aren't just techniques. They're pathways to greater peace and more authentic connection in all areas of your life. Think about it. You're having a perfectly fine day, and then someone cuts you off in traffic, or a colleague makes a snide remark, or a loved one just completely misunderstands you. The immediate, raw surge of anger, frustration, or hurt is almost automatic. Our default setting often kicks in, a primitive feeling of being attacked or disrespected. And in that moment, our emotional discipline can feel like it's flown right out the window. But what if, just for a moment, we could hit pause? What if we could step outside our immediate reaction and try to understand the other person's perspective? Now, here's the crucial part. Something I've learned is often misunderstood: practicing empathy doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It doesn't mean you condone their actions or invalidate your own feelings. Not at all. It simply means you're trying to gather more information, to see the broader picture. Maybe that driver is rushing to the hospital. Maybe your colleague is under immense pressure at home. Maybe your loved one is struggling with their own insecurities and it's spilling over. When you allow yourself even that fleeting thought, what might be going on for them? Something profound happens. The conflict starts to depersonalize. It stops being about you as the direct, intended target of their malice or carelessness, and it becomes more about them and their experience, whatever internal or external pressures they might be facing. This isn't about being a doormat, it's about becoming a master of your own emotional state. When you depersonalize the situation, your reactivity plummets. That immediate urge to retaliate, to escalate, to stew in anger, starts to dissipate. You're no longer just reacting, you're observing, understanding, and choosing your response from a place of calm, rather than a place of rage. It's an act of deep personal power, diffusing conflict not by fighting it, but by understanding its potential roots. Now, let's be real. Despite all our best intentions and all the tools we gather, we're human. There will be days, moments when we slip up. We'll say something we regret, react impulsively, or let our emotions get the better of us. And in the aftermath, that's when another powerful force often kicks in, the inner critic. That relentless, harsh voice that isn't content with whispering, it often shouts, deafening us with accusations like, "You idiot! You always mess this up. Why can't you get it together? See, you're not disciplined at all." It's a voice designed to shame us, to push us into a spiral of self-judgment and regret. And what good does that voice do? Absolutely none. It paralyzes us. It keeps us stuck in the mistake, unable to learn, unable to move forward. It tells us we're unworthy, which is the exact opposite of what we need to get back on track. This is precisely where self-compassion becomes our lifeline. Think about it: if a close friend came to you, distraught because they made a similar mistake, how would you respond? Would you berate them? Would you tell them they're a failure? Of course not. You'd offer kindness, understanding, a gentle reminder that they're human, that mistakes happen, and that the important thing is to learn and grow. You'd probably say something like, "It's okay. We all mess up. What can we learn from this?" That, my friends, is the voice you need to adopt for yourself. Self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook, dismissing responsibility, or wallowing in self-pity. It's about giving yourself the grace to get back on the hook in a way that's constructive and empowering. It's about acknowledging, okay, that didn't go well. I felt overwhelmed, I reacted poorly. And that's okay. I'm human. What can I do differently next time? It's speaking to yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience you would offer someone you deeply care about. This isn't weakness, it's the ultimate strength. Self-compassion is the key to breaking free from the shame spiral. Shame keeps you trapped, focused on what you did wrong. Self-compassion liberates you. It creates a safe space for you to process the mistake, understand its triggers, and then, crucially, allows you to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and try again with renewed commitment. It's the foundation for true emotional resilience, ensuring that a slip-up becomes a learning opportunity, not a permanent setback. So, as we navigate the complexities of our emotional lives, remember these two powerful antidotes. Empathy for others, not as agreement, but as a path to depersonalize conflict and choose a calmer response. And self-compassion for ourselves, not as an excuse, but as the essential fuel to recover from missteps and bravely continue on our journey of emotional growth. They are the keys to not just staying calm, but to truly thriving in a world that will inevitably throw emotional curveballs our way. We've been on quite a journey together, dissecting the nuances of emotional discipline, talking about how to cultivate that inner calm, how to respond rather than react. And if you've been following along, perhaps even trying some of the strategies we've discussed, you might be feeling a sense of empowerment, a new kind of control. But here's the truth. Something I've learned not just from studying these principles, but from living them. No matter how much you practice, no matter how committed you are, you're going to mess up. You're going to slip. And that's not just okay, it's absolutely, fundamentally normal. This isn't about achieving perfection. Let's get that idea out of our heads right now. Emotional discipline isn't a finish line where you suddenly become an unshakable Zen master who never gets frustrated, never snaps, never feels anything but serene gratitude. It's a journey, a practice, a continuous process of learning and refining. Think of it like learning an instrument. You'll hit wrong notes. A lot of them, but those aren't failures, they're feedback. They're part of the process of becoming proficient. Our goal here isn't flawless execution, it's consistent progress. It's about getting a little bit better, a little bit more aware with each passing day, even when those days include a stumble. So, when that inevitable slip-up happens, when you lose your cool with a loved one, when you get overwhelmed and retreat, when you let a situation dictate your emotional state, despite all your intentions, what then? Do we fall into a pit of self-recrimination? Do we throw our hands up and declare ourselves emotional failures? Absolutely not. That's precisely where the real work and the real growth begins. I've developed a simple, guilt-free framework for handling these moments, something I call the 3 R's of recovery: recognize, repair, and reflect. It's designed to pull you out of the spiral of self-judgment and back onto the path of intentional growth. Let's break them down. First, recognize. This is about catching yourself. It's that moment, either in the heat of it or immediately after, where you become aware that you've deviated from your calm, disciplined self. Maybe you just yelled at your kid over something trivial, or you sent a frustrated email you immediately regretted. The recognition isn't about shaming yourself, it's about acknowledging the reality of what just happened. It's saying, okay, that wasn't ideal. I slipped. This step is crucial because it stops the momentum of the emotional hijack. Instead of letting the anger or frustration snowball into a bigger mess, you hit the pause button. Breathe. Just notice. No judgment, just observation. This recognition can happen seconds after, minutes after, or even hours later. The key is that it does happen. And as you practice emotional discipline, you'll find that the gap between the slip and the recognition gets shorter and shorter. Next up, repair. Once you've recognized the slip, the next natural question is, what needs fixing? And this can involve two levels of repair: internal and external. Internally, you might need to repair your own sense of calm, to forgive yourself for being human, to reset your emotional state. But often, our slip-ups involve other people. We might have said something hurtful, acted impatiently, or let our emotions negatively impact someone else. This is where relational repair comes in. And let's talk about apologies, because a true apology is an art form. It's not just saying "I'm sorry," it's much deeper than that. An effective apology has a few key components. 1. Acknowledge the specific harm. Don't generalize. "I'm sorry I snapped at you about the dishes" is far better than "I'm sorry if I upset you." Be specific about your actions and their impact too. Take full responsibility. Avoid "I'm sorry you felt this" shifts blame. Instead, "I'm sorry I said that. It was out of line." 3. Express genuine remorse. Let them see that you regret your actions, not just the consequences. 4. Offer to make amends or outline a plan for change. "What can I do to make this right?" Or "I'm going to work on my patience when I'm tired." And try to communicate better. 5. Request forgiveness. This puts the ball in their court, respecting their process. "Can you forgive me?" This isn't about groveling, it's about restoring trust and valuing the relationship. It's an act of emotional maturity that strengthens your bonds, rather than weakening them. And sometimes you might need to repair something with yourself. Maybe you broke a commitment to yourself, like a promise to exercise or meditate. Repairing that means acknowledging it, forgiving yourself, and then recommitting, perhaps with a modified plan. Finally, we arrive at reflect. This is arguably the most powerful step, because it transforms a setback into a learning opportunity. This is where we shift our internal dialogue dramatically. Instead of asking yourself, "Why am I so bad at this? Why do I always mess up?" which is a self-defeating question that leads nowhere, you pivot to asking, "What can I learn from this?" This question is a game changer. It opens up an avenue for genuine growth. What were the triggers leading up to this? Was I tired? Hungry? Stressed? Feeling unheard? What was the specific emotion I was feeling, and what was it trying to tell me? What alternative response could I have chosen in that moment? What strategies could I employ next time I find myself in a similar situation? Is there an underlying pattern here that I need to address? Reflection isn't about dwelling on the negative, it's about extracting wisdom. It's about using the experience, however uncomfortable, to sharpen your self-awareness and refine your approach to emotional discipline. Every slip-up, every wrong note becomes a data point, an instruction manual for how to navigate the next challenge with more grace and wisdom. So, the next time you inevitably stumble, remember it's not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're human, and you're learning. Embrace the 3 R's. Recognize the slip without judgment, repair any damage, especially relational, and reflect deeply to extract the invaluable lessons. This isn't about avoiding mistakes, it's about mastering the art of recovery. It's about building resilience, self-compassion, and a truly robust emotional intelligence that can withstand the inevitable ups and downs of life. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep growing. You've got this.